Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. Reed will not be joining us for this episode. He has the flu, unfortunately, him and his family, so hope that they get better. Hall will be here at some point during this episode, but the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. The title of this episode is Hard Hats, because I want to talk about some hard hat workers and prospects that could come here to Washington this offseason. So I thought I'd bring in our own little hard hat worker from Pro Football Focus, Mr. Nick Akridge. How you doing tonight on this beautiful Thursday, brother?
I'm good. I don't know if I qualify under that hard hat worker, but I'll take the compliment.
The mustache, it certifies you right there.
Yeah,
You know
we'll go with
saying?
that.
I like that a lot. Now, question I have to ask you, because obviously a lot has transpired since the last time that we've had you on, but the latest news was Zach Ertz being added here. Obviously, last year in Arizona, it was not a very productive year in a sense when you look at Zach Ertz's career going back to Philly. But obviously, there are some positives here with Zach Ertz, and what are those?
Yeah, I mean he's a veteran guy and he's been in the Cliff Kingsbury system. I mean, I think that's what you're kind of looking for with this sort of signing. It's not going to break the bank or anything like that. I don't think there's any reason to kind of get upset about it. He's going to be, a type of guy that can sort of help a young quarterback, and you always kind of want a veteran tight end to do that. And he can, help a young tight end if we kind of draft one in the later rounds. And yeah, I don't really see much of a downside to it. Again, it's a guy that's familiar with this system, and you're going to kind of see that, throughout free agency, guys that, have connections to Cliff and on the offensive side, and on the defensive side, guys that have connection to Dan Quinn and that staff. So, I think it's just a good veteran guy to bring in and just kind of help everyone out.
Yeah, and like a lot of people would say, well, maybe Logan Thomas is possibly better at this point in his career, and I'm not going to sit here and go through that straw argument, but the fact of the matter is that Zach Ertz is a positive in the sense of being able to use his mind and being able to, he knows where to go, and
Yeah.
especially with our young quarterback in a new offense, I guess you could say a new offense, you have to have a good, reliable target that's going to know where to go. But that's where my point here is, I think this more so is pointing to Cliff running the same sort of offense that he had in Arizona, and he needs somebody to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. Like you said, he's a nice safety valve. When you get a young quarterback playing, you don't want everyone to be where they're supposed to be. And you won't really have to worry about that with Zach Ertz.
No, you won't. Now, the next question I have for you, talk about this safety market, because today it has absolutely just blossomed and boomed out the woodwork. There's so many great names out there. Xavier McKinney is one. Jamal Adams got released as well. What are some guys that you're looking at here at the safety position? Like, what is going on? Are there some names there that you think would be good additions here that wouldn't be overly expensive?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of them are going to be expensive now. I mean, with just the amount of guys out there, the amount of big names that you've got out there, it's just going to depend on what they kind of want to do on defense. I think we're going to see a huge shift in what we saw on defense these past couple of years. A lot less too high stuff, a lot more, single high stuff. So you could, maybe try to break the bank and go big with Justin Simmons. I think he could fit that category. There's a lot of guys out there that have played in multiple systems, so you can really kind of pick and choose as to who you want. Again, just kind of look into the background, see where they've kind of matched up with Dan Quinn and that staff in the past, and I think that's who you should really be looking at in terms of safety.
Yeah.
I think one of them is going to come here to Washington. I think you obviously need to look at that with the possible departure of Cam Curl. So. There's a lot of options right now. You don't really have to break the bank anymore.
Can you please explain to me or elaborate what you mean by possible departure?
Yeah. Well, Cam Curl himself is on Twitter with his, the emojis and stuff like that. So it's never great when that sort of stuff happens. I've said it multiple times, a huge Cam Curl fan. I would love if they re-signed him. I think he can fill multiple positions and play in multiple different defenses. He's extremely reliable. I know the big talk is, lack of turnovers and lack of playmaking ability, but, his position isn't the type of position that you're going to see get 5, 6, 7 picks a year. You're just going to see him be in the right spot at the right time every single time. And that's what you need.
That being said, by definition, What is the job of a safety?
Depends on what kind of defense you're asking. I mean, with these past couple of years with Cam Curl, it was, a lot of their too high stuff. It was, come down and match on slot receivers if you're playing these quarters coverages. It was to come down into the box. It was to come down to be that force player, that edge player. It was sometimes you're going to have to rotate to middle of the field safety. Sometimes you're going to have to play deep half. There was a lot of that. I think if you see him in a Dan Quinn type of system, you'd see him a lot more down in the slot, down in the box, as they play kind of single high stuff. But again, you can get tricky with it, and you can have him rotate to that deep middle of the field safety. You can have him manned up on guys. I think that type of player is just really valuable. A guy that can play in multiple positions and play them well.
Absolutely, and obviously them being the caps of the defense, not allowing anything behind them, and that is their whole goal. And limiting points is ultimately what a safety is asked to do, and that's all that you honestly need. But anything on the top of that is a cherry on top, and somebody like Ed Reed obviously just epitomizes that, right? But
Yeah.
we. We've talked so much already, Nick, and we've gone 6 minutes, and we haven't talked about the quarterbacks. So,
Here we go.
what? Let's just say that Caleb is off the board. What quarterback fits Cliff Kingsbury's offense the best? And obviously, this is hard to do because we're not going to be getting the exact same offense from Arizona. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I don't know if one particularly is more suited for this offense than the other. Drake May's got some backings in that air raid style of offense this past year. He played with his offensive coordinator as an air raid guy as well. Jaden Daniels has history in that as well. I think both of them can play in that sort of offense. There's been talk about, you want a mobile quarterback, a dual threat quarterback. And that's kind of had people lean towards Jaden Daniels, but Drake May is a hell of an athlete and he can be a dual threat quarterback as well. So I don't think there's really one that's a better fit. I think it's really what you kind of prefer, the high end skill set that you kind of prefer, what you're really banking on. And we don't really know what those thoughts are. We don't know what they prefer from the quarterback position. I know what I prefer, but it's really just kind of comes down to that, what they kind of want to do. And I think it should be between those two. Again, if Caleb's off the board, I think those two, either of them would be home run hits. And I think that's the point that people need to focus on, is that Jaden or Drake are both going to be home run hits, and it's up to the coaching staff, to get both of them to turn them into franchise quarterback.
Yeah, this is the first time in my lifetime, Nick, that this will be an organizational supporting of a quarterback from the
Yeah.
top down, and we've
Yeah.
never really had that before. So it is
Hey, that's all
exciting.
you can ask for. It's
Right.
all you can ask for. I mean, we're going to scout these guys to forever. I mean, for
Right.
the next month and a half now, we're going to just know everything about them. But honestly, it comes down to the what they're put in the atmosphere they're put in the second they enter the league. And like you said, it's hopefully finally going to be a complete franchise. Everyone is behind this one guy instead of, people pulling him different ways. And one half of the team is against him, one half is for him. So that's honestly all you can hope for.
You're absolutely right. Now, Nick, I am fully accepting of this fact that I'm a gigantic loser, and I spend way too much of my time watching film on college prospects of young kids going into the NFL, but I absolutely love it. I have like my own personal favorites at different times. Do you have a personal favorite barring quarterback right now?
No, I don't, because I haven't really looked into anything outside of quarterbacks. I mean, I think that's obviously, I think that's going to be the route that they go. And what I tend to do, I've tried in the past to kind of, pick out who I think they can get at a certain spot and scout those guys, and it always ends up being wrong.
Yeah.
So basically, I just wait. I wait to see who they pick, and then I kind of dive into the tape and go from there.
And
I
Nick,
think
what you do with that is you just blame that on Rivera's drafting. That's not your fault.
honestly, yeah. I mean, we can do that. I didn't have Jamin Davis or Emmanuel Forbes on my board at that pick the last couple times. I wasn't really looking into that one. So, hopefully there's much easier, options to look at here. So, yeah.
Obviously, you're not like watching the Cowboys. Actually, I don't know the other team that you watch for Pro Football Focus. But that being said, looking at this team altogether, just knowing what Dan Quinn is about, the people person, Joe Witt Jr. being the turnover king that he is, and the offense with Cliff Kingsbury, what's one player that's currently on Washington under contract that's going to benefit the most? That automatically, as soon as they hired them, it's going to be a better player next year.
That's a good question. I think it's Emmanuel Forbes.
Yeah.
I think you're going to finally get him to hopefully play in a position that he's more comfortable with and just kind of allow him to be aggressive. I mean, going back to talking about his college tape, that's what he was. He
Yeah.
was an aggressive guy. He liked to
You
jump
didn't
things.
see it at all last year. It seemed like a deer in
No.
the headlights type of situation. Very weird.
Yeah, no, it was a weird situation overall. I mean, they drafted a guy he was a fit in the defense. What he did in college was, you can ask him to do the exact same
Right.
thing in Washington, and they ended up not doing that. It was overall very weird. But I think he's the type of guy that you can kind of look to as kind of hoping he has that sort of jump in that spark. I mean, it's kind of tough not to have a jump up from what happened last year, but yeah, I think he could definitely benefit from this.
I'm not sure if this is going to be a difficult question. I'm sorry that I didn't prep you on this beforehand, but I just thought of combining these two. Between Kendall Fuller and, oh my goodness, I had his name written down. Why can't I think of it right now? And Jacoby Brissett, who's more likely to return?
Ooh.
Or who would you rather return? I
Who would
guess
I
it would be.
rather
Yeah.
return? I think I would on. I think I would honestly rather return Jacoby. I think that's.
Hmm.
I mean, I love Kendall Fuller. I just don't think he's going to be a fit at all for what Dan Quinn is asking their corners to do. He is one of the best in the league at playing these off zone coverages where he can sit back and read and react and
Right.
whatnot. We've seen in the past him kind of struggle with these kind of man heavy press coverage sort of look. So I just don't think he's really a great fit here. Um, that being said, you bring someone back like Jacoby that is clearly a very, very smart guy and could, help mentor the next quarterback. But then again, you have him, Sam Howell, and then the possible number two pick all in the same room. So I just kind of realized that probably might not work as well. But we'll see. I don't really think either of them come back. But yeah, I think Brissett would be my pick.
Kendall's one of those guys that literally is just missing that one little bit because it's so funny with him. He's so good at the line of scrimmage, being able to stop screens, anything of that sort. He's very good at being able to get behind the line of scrimmage. But then when he's in those positions and it's not a screen, is also when his weakness is. But obviously, it's
Yeah.
best at sitting low. But that being said, Nick, let's wrap this up with a couple more questions for you. If you had to choose, re-sign AG, draft a running back in high value, or sign a big name expensive running back at free agency, what are you going with?
What are we talking about high value in terms of draft? What round are we looking at there?
Second to third.
I would go with drafting one.
Okay.
I'm a big believer, and again here at PFF we hate all running backs. But no, I'm a big believer in drafting these guys consistently in the third, fourth round, and kind of just it's unfortunate for their position, but not re-signing them and just kind of keeping that carousel going, just drafting guys third and fourth round. We see it every single year that these guys that are drafted in these late rounds come out and just can instantly produce. So I think that's the way to kind of treat this position for the next couple of years is just kind of keep drafting these guys in the third and fourth round and let them run them till their wheels fall off and you just keep doing it over and over again. I mean, again, it sucks for the position, it sucks for those guys, but I think that's just kind of what we've kind of come down to with the running back position.
Absolutely. And next question is last week, obviously, Washington made some moves in mixing up the offensive line, letting go of Leto, also of Gates. So basically, the bottom fell out on the offensive line, and the really big name that you could say is 100% going to be a starter next season is Sam Cosmi. You could argue Andrew Wiley. I get it, but with Cosmi, would you think it's a smart idea to possibly move him to another spot?
No, I think he's finally cemented himself in that right guard, and he had a great back half of the year. I don't think people really kind of recognize that as much, but he was really, really productive the back half of last season. When there was nothing really to play for, he's still trying to finish every single dude and put him through the ground every single time. And we kind of saw a couple of years ago when they're trying to switch him back and forth between right tackle and right guard, it just wasn't working. So I think you finally found him in a spot where he's comfortable. And I don't really think you mess with that sort of comfort and just kind of let him shine there.
All right, and last question I have for you. You're obviously I'm not going to say that you're a 100% expert in Dan Quinn's defense, but what do you think would be the one cog limiting Washington from allowing Dan Quinn's defense to be very successful immediately? Like the reason why it's a grand scheme, like speed, power, sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think you're missing that kind of that edge rusher right now. Obviously he used Micah Parsons in a bunch of
Right.
different ways, and what made that defense so great is that he was able to use Micah and set him up in favorable matchups. Not just keep him on the edge, not just keep him off the ball, but line him up over the center, use him in stunts and twists and all that sort of stuff. And when you have that sort of athlete and that kind of player, you can get really creative with the type of blitzes that you send at quarterbacks, and that just makes the offense's life live in hell, and it makes your defense look that much better. So they don't really have a player like that. I'm intrigued to kind of see what he does with Allen and Payne up front, what kind of creative stuff he works with them. But yeah, I would say there's no real big edge rusher, pass rusher kind of guy that they really need right now.
I'm with you. I'm with last real quick. Hall, do you have a question you'd like to ask Nick before we get out of here?
Well, I guess free agency is right around the corner. I don't know if you asked him this or not, but I would say, what position do you think they attack first coming into free agency starting next week?
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's corner. I think corner. I don't like I said. I think Forbes again will have a much better year than last year, but I don't think you have a lot of corners on this roster right now that really kind of fit what
Mm.
Dan Quinn wants to do. And I think you can see some guys again that he worked with in the past kind of coming this way, and maybe that's on a 1 year sort of prove it deal and whatnot. But
Yeah.
again, there was a lot of turnover in that secondary. Like it was really bad last year, and so I think you don't really have answers right now on this roster. So I think you need to really shore up that secondary, because secondary it's kind of a weak link unit. I mean, again, we saw last year Kendall Fuller was good, but the rest of it was just so bad that it just didn't work. So I think you need to shore up that secondary, and not just big splash signing at corner. I just think you need a lot more depth and just solid rotational players there, because I think that's what they've been missing.
Yeah, I think a good way to describe the defense last year, not on a player basis, but just system and like coaching, I would say hollow. It seemed like there
Mm-hmm.
wasn't much back there. But Nick, thank you so much for joining us this beautiful Thursday evening, sir. Hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the beautiful weather and any type of football news that we have. I hope we get some exciting news, but you never know. Have a great night, Nick.
Yeah. All right. See you guys. You have a good one.
Appreciate it,
You
man.
too, brother. All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Nick Akridge. How you doing, Hall?
Oh man, another day in paradise. Work, work, work.
Yeah, you're
Seems like
not.
I just work.
Yeah, you're right. That's what we all do, man. We just work until we retire, and hopefully we're able to have 10 years of retirement before we croak. That's essentially what that's what it all ends up to. But let's get into our fan questions, brother, to wrap up this episode. And this one is from the Colonel. He asked us this: thoughts on the single-year Ertz signing in Kingsbury?
Yeah, I like the signing. Obviously, if you he was on Pat McAfee earlier today, and he talked about how he likes Cliff Kingsbury as a coach, and he was a free agent. And when he saw Kingsbury get the job here in Washington, he was like, "Oh, I want to go and play for that guy again." And he talked about how Dan Quinn, and he's never heard like a bad word about Dan Quinn, and how he's just like pumped up to be with a whole new organization and with brand new everything here. But long story short, yeah, I just like it because he's an older guy, and I feel like he's going to be pretty much like he can teach the offense to the younger guys and the rest of the guys in the offense, because he's been in this offense before in his Arizona days. And if they draft a tight end, obviously he's a great mentor for a young tight end, and he's always been known as a great leader and a great locker room guy. And obviously with the new regime coming in and the new whole vibe, you want to have a guy like that in your locker room. And obviously if he stays healthy, he can be a contributor as well, hopefully. So I like the signing, but still got to do more in the tight end room to bolster it up a little bit.
Yeah, I really like the signing, and because it's cheap, obviously, and a lot of people would say maybe that might be overspending a little bit for Ertz. Obviously, he was eyeing retirement, and so people would say, the guy looking to leave is it really needing to pay $5 million, and I would argue that that's why we had to
It's
pay
not
the.
even 5 mil though. I think it's like up
It's
to 5 mil with
that
all the
with the
incentives.
incentives, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But that's my point. Is like maybe we had to put that in there to get him out of retirement. But I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. As soon as we got Zach Ertz, that told me again that it's Caleb, and it's another indicator of Caleb. And the reason why I say that is there is no quarterback in this draft class that can mimic Arizona's defense as correctly in parallel form than Caleb Williams. Drake May being taller, there's going to be adjustments to it. Jaden Daniels is going to be adjustments to it. When you look at USC and Caleb, what he did last season, it's very similar to what Cliff was doing with Kyler Murray and getting the ball out quick to the sidelines. And I am not under the belief that the other guys are able to execute that offense in the way and the fashion that it needs to be successful. And I don't want to put those guys in that position to force them a square peg into a round hole kind of thing. And that's why when I saw Ertz, what it means to me is you need somebody to be in the right position when you need the quarterback to be there. And the way that I looked at it and explained it to the Colonel last night is this Ertz thing, it was reminiscent to me of Gronk following Tom Brady down to Tampa. Because this is a quarterback coming in who has his own system, knows what he's doing, but needs a relative good target who knows where to go and is a dependable piece. And that's what I'm looking at here. It's almost like you're getting a quarterback who knows the offense and needs that dependable piece to know where to go, because the current guys on the roster have no idea. And that's probably the big cog in all this. And it's not more so, I think it's more so generated to that quarterback and saying that we're going to make sure that this is going to be lined up and ready to go. And that's all that matters. And so I actually liked it a lot, to be honest with you. I think Zach Ertz is a really great guy. And enough time has passed that the Philly stench has left him. You know, he's got some new Commander's cologne on. He's fresh. He's good to go, man. Now the next question from the Colonel Hall. Schrager on Good Morning Football was theorizing the Commanders already have their quarterback. Do you guys think it's possible that leadership thinks Howell is the answer and we're going to trade back to get a slew of picks?
Yeah, I mean, like I've always said, anything is possible in this league, but I just think, I mean, yeah, it's definitely possible. To me, that would just signal that, okay, they're doing like a trust the process thing in the, like he did in basketball, like up there in Philly, where not like it's going to take as long because it took like multiple years for them to actually finally get good and relevant and consistent. But
it's not hard.
That would just, yeah, that would just show to me that they're going to roll with Sam Howell, get a bunch of picks that. It's not like a throw it away year, but it's like, okay, everyone get acclimated. Everyone kind of, yeah, I guess I can't find a word for it, but just get acclimated and kind of learn the system, like blah, 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 blah. And then next year in year two, like if Sam Howell like doesn't pan out, he plays like the second half of the season of this past season and you're picking the top 10 again or whatever it may be. Then maybe you get your quarterback, maybe you get a veteran because the roster is a little bit bolstered up. But to me, I mean, it's that time of the season where people are just throwing any type of theory out at the wall and hoping it sticks because they need stuff to talk about. Me personally, I don't think there's – I mean, like I said, there's a chance, but there's like a slim, like 1-2% chance they roll with Sam Howell. They trade back, bolster the roster, and roll with Sam Howell. Me personally, I know I put on Twitter today – the dude just said, name 3 things that Jaden Daniels does better than Drake May. Or Drake May does better than Jaden Daniels or something like that. He was going back and forth somebody. And I was just like, throws in the middle of the field, anticipation throws, and he has a stronger arm. And everyone just literally, like, you know how it is on Twitter. Everyone just assumed that I'm like pro Drake May and anti.
Just said he doesn't get decapitated when he runs.
I know. Well, the funny thing is, people were commenting on that too. Like, he doesn't get like clobbered in the open field, but yeah, I was like, people just assumed that I was like pro May and anti Jaden Daniels when I actually want them to draft Jaden. Yeah, I know. Basically, I want them to draft Jaden. It's going to be Kirk Cousins and RG3 all over again. But I want them to draft. Jaden Daniels at number 2. Like, people are just like, going like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're an idiot. Like,
No, but he asked for it and you supplied it.
Well, the funny thing is, he didn't even respond. It was a bunch of other people responding. Like, but yeah. So yeah, I don't think they're going to trade back. I'm hoping that they draft Jaden Daniels number 2. But again, I'm good with either Drake May or Jaden Daniels. Dude, I'm good with both.
Of course, it's possible. Of course, it's possible that Sam Howell is the quarterback on the roster. You know, but it's also possible that I'm Batman. You know, but all I'm saying is. It makes sense if you are a psychotic like me, because I love that idea, because you want to build up the team. You already have a cheap quarterback on the roster that you already have, and you could go on and move on in building up your team. You can get a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. or Joe Alt, and then obviously you're gonna have a better team immediately as soon as you put that pick in. But the tone deaf aspect of it is kind of ridiculous, because Josh Harris is not just some foreigner that has no idea what Washington is about. He knows what everybody is starving for. He knows that the expectation is to never be at the second overall pick ever again. And the way you do that is by getting your franchise guy and able to create the consistency in winning, so we don't come back here every 2 to 3 years like it's kind of been a trend. We got to stop that right now. And you do that by putting your foot in the ground. You plant your flag on the quarterback and say, regardless of what happens, this dude is the quarterback for the next 5 years. You actually show commitment to him on the flip side of what the Chicago Bears are doing. I don't care what poll says, what they say about the Caleb Williams and all that crap. All it tells me is that you can't produce quarterbacks. You can't pick quarterbacks. You've screwed it up every single time that you had. Mitchell Trubisky. You passed on Pat Mahomes. How many times do you need? How many? Even the Jaguars got one right. Go down with the ship. Tired of this crap, dude. I'm so tired.
One more point before we jump off the trade back topic, because John Keim actually said this and it made so much sense that I didn't even think about this. I'm like, of course John Keim thought about it. So for people that want to trade back and get all these picks and blah, 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 there's going to come a time 4 years down the road, 5 years down the road, they're going to have to pay a whole bunch of players. If, let's say 60% of the players that you pick in this draft end up hitting. Well, of those 60% of those players that are hitting, how are you going to pay all those players that you picked and hit on? You know what I'm saying? So he was like, there's going to come a time where, because most people are just thinking about trade back now and build the team out and blah, blah, blah. GMs are thinking about 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the road type thing.
I love John Keim, but I don't like that argument. And the only reason I will say that is that's a good problem. And that is a problem that you want to have. You want to create that winning sustainability to the point where you have an issue. And that's where we're at the moment. So, look, I understand what John is saying. There's always going to be a flip side, bad side to it. But at this point, let's start winning freaking games. And if we have to worry about that problem in the future, then let's do it. But let's win some games, man.
I think his point was they already have so many picks now where it's like they're trying to.
You're right.
But also
with 4 top 100 pick in the top 100. Yeah, I saw the tweet.
But also my thing is people don't want to trade back and all that blah, blah, blah. It's like it's hard enough to hit on one player. If you're trading back, that means we're going to build the team out. Well, every player that you pick is not going to be a starter or a surefire thing. It's, in my opinion, obviously people will say it's better to have more draft capital because it's the hit rate is higher. But on the flip side of that, the miss rate is we just saw that this past draft season. The miss rate is also just as high as the hit rate. So you can miss on a lot of these draft picks. And then where you're at, you just trade away all this draft capital, passed on a quarterback. Now what? You're still down at square one. You know what I'm saying? You're still starting from square one. And then essentially. So, I mean, like I said, I get the whole people that want to trade back and build the roster. But like you said, Josh Harris talked about doing it the right way, and he wants to build a consistent winner. How you do that is you find your quarterback that's going to be your guy for at least the minimum the next 5 years, and you build off of that.
And look, I know that OG would argue that this team is not in a position to have a rookie quarterback be successful. And I'm not going to argue with you.
This is almost basically the same roster for the most part, almost, that was winning 7-8 games with Taylor Heineke. I mean, give or take, but a couple players here and there, but so it's
hey, that's fine. All I'll say to OG in an argument back to him in this regard is the team might not be good enough to be able to help a rookie quarterback in that regard, or be good enough to support a good rookie quarterback. But this coaching staff is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Now let's move on to our next question. Let's go to to Twitter. This is from our guy, Just Your Average Fly Guy. With the free agent legal tampering portion days away, what is the best way to get the biggest bang for our buck? Sign vet free agents on 1 to 2 year deals and fill every hole on our roster, and then go into the draft? Get our QB at 2, then best player available? Or should you target specific positions?
I think it's a little bit of both, but you're going to target specific positions based on the market and like obviously need. And then you're looking at the draft board as well. Like, okay, we're looking at this guy for this position. If we sign this player, you think we still need to draft this guy this position, or can we take him off, move him down a little bit on our board because we essentially took a position of need? Say it's like interior offensive line or tight end, whatever it may be. So I would say that I would go with the option B for the most part, I guess, where it's like you're looking at certain players, certain positions, and you're picking certain guys that fit your system, fit your need, and you're just targeting certain players in certain positions like that. But also, like I said, at the same time, maybe you're like, hey, we're gonna sign a guy, a veteran guy, for a year or two, while we still draft his replacement at 36 or 40, whatever the pick might be, just because maybe that guy needs to be a rotational guy. And in year two, that's when he'll hit the ground running and he can be a big difference maker for us. So you can do it either way, but I think that the way they might do it is, like I said, I think it'll be a mixture of both, actually. I think it'll be a mixture of 1 or 2 year deals with also targeting guys for the long term vision as well, as far as like certain positions and certain positions of need.
Yeah. As the GM of my toilet, I will say this as an expert in that regard. If I was a GM, if the player was under 27 years old hitting free agency, I would offer multi-year deals, meaning the 3 to 4 or 5 year deals. If they're over 27, then that's when you're going with the 1 to 2 year deals because that's when you're getting into the territory. Obviously, it depends on the position and how much wear and tear they have on their body, but that's when you start getting into the iffy area of possibly falling off a cliff. And that's what you want to avoid because that's what we had with Josh Norman. That's what we had with William Jackson III as well. That's what you want to avoid with these free agent contracts. So getting the younger guy obviously is probably the best way to go about it. But I think you want to be able to find specific guys of free agency who you have plans for that you know can get production out of. You then, from that point, are able to say, this is our general consensus, right? And this is what we're pushing. But you need to be able to have a foundation in place. And I feel like that's where free agency is going to come into and really paying off. I don't think it's going to be fill every single hole with a big name free agent or anything like that. But I more so think it's going to be smart financial decisions in being able to create that foundation so when we head into the draft, we are not forced to go in any sort of area. Then you become predictable. People can jump you. You'll lose out on the guys you're hoping for, and then everything starts to fall apart. But so free agency, let's put yourself in a very good position to move in any position. And I think that's probably the best way I would go about it. Now, the next question that we have on Twitter, thank you, Fly Guy, that was great. Next question from David. Not sure if you're taking questions, but does the signing of Zach Ertz change how high you'd look to draft a tight end? Still a position of need for him.
Yeah, it's definitely still a position of need. Like I said earlier, you need to do a little bit more to bolster that room, whether it's drafting a guy in the second or third round, or maybe you take like a fourth or fifth round pick on a guy like on a tight end in the mid on day three or maybe something like that. But um, yeah, it doesn't change how I feel about the tight end room. A lot of people are forgetting about Armani Rogers, who is coming back off of the injury, and I mean, he was getting a lot of buzz in training camp, but who knows about that? But he's coming off the injury. But anyway, they still need to do more. And yeah, I think that they're definitely probably more than likely going to draft a tight end. I'd say maybe early day two, maybe early day three, but they're going to get somebody for Zach Ertz to kind of mentor along the way, teach him this offense, teach him the ropes of being an NFL player, to kind of take him under his wing as the old crafty veteran that he is, and hopefully he'll be the guy of the future going forward.
No, it doesn't change my opinion on where to draft a tight end or anything like that. We talked about last week that it would be smart to get a veteran tight end in this offense in order to help the transition, right? Because John Bates not known as the passer, right? Cole Turner having to get better as a blocker, so it's not you don't have that full body of work where you have the blocker and the pass catcher you have, and that's what Zach Ertz does for you. But it does, well, like we already thought that was going to happen just based on letting go of Logan Thomas. So no, it doesn't change anything for me. I still think this is a very good position. This team's in a position that they could draft a tight end in the later rounds, in the middle to later rounds. They could incorporate here as the third, fourth tight end, fifth tight end, and just be able to build that tight end factory like we talked about last week. And that's what's most important to me. So no, it doesn't change anything for me. I don't think it's something that you need to force, so to speak. But if there's a guy there that you really like, that you're in a position where it can help you, yeah, pull the trigger. I don't. It's not changing the meter at all for me, brother. Now let's go to our Discord app for all of our fan questions and are from our diehard boys in the Discord. This is from our boy Scott Hartley in the UK. Oi! In the
Oi.
1 Point Safety Show. If you guys haven't yet, go and follow them, like them. They're on YouTube. They're absolutely, you'll love them. Andy Lockhart, Scott Hartley, very loyal guys that travel thousands of miles to come see this football team play, and we love them for it. Now, his question is, with the recent cuts around the NFL, who would fit the most in Washington that's affordable?
Ooh, that's affordable. Well, it's a good question. I would say that there's been a lot of talk about the center that just got cut from the Buffalo Bills and how Bobby Johnson coached him up in Buffalo, and obviously OG Bobby Johnson. We don't know about Ricky Stromberg and where he's at with his recovery and from the injury and how he's actually going to fare as a center going forward. So I would assume they're probably going to get a vet in here to come in here and help a young quarterback out, help him at the line of scrimmage, be able to call out some of the make all the calls so that he has a little bit less off the young quarterback's plate. So that's one fit. And he'll probably be on the cheaper side because he's not like an old veteran, but he's on the he's like back end of his prime, I would say. I think he's like close to that. But let's see what else. Like Nick Akridge talked about a cornerback. I think they're definitely going to target a cornerback or two in free agency, kind of get some veterans in here because if we lose Kendall Fuller, I think St. Juice, or I guess maybe Danny Johnson might be the oldest guy in the room at that point, but he's more of a rotational guy. You don't have like a solid, like, hey, I'm going to take charge of this room type of guy. So I would say cornerback as well. I can't think of any quarterbacks in free agency outside
with
of my
the
head.
recent cuts around the NFL, who would be the most fit the most of Washington that's affordable? Well, obviously with the recent vacation of safety, I would have to imagine it would be a safety. Probably a younger guy. He'd have to be under 27 years old. I would like for him to be kind of a taller mindset, athletic, a good tackler. So I think a really good fit that would be affordable is Cameron Curl. I think that is a great prospect of somebody that could come in here, slide in here, and do really well for you. But in all seriousness, who would really fit well here? I think Stephon Gilmore is probably a really good name, like you had talked about, that number one cornerback. Him having that year with Dallas, it might help him transition with Joe Witt and others. So I'll say Stephon Gilmore. Is as painful as it is for me to say that because of him being in Dallas. Yes, I would go down that route. Now the next question that we have is from Big Tony Shivers. Would you be okay with pairing a rookie quarterback with a rookie center? Or do you think it's important to have an experienced center with a rookie?
Yeah, I definitely think, like we just talked about.
It's a really good question.
It's a really good question. I definitely would like an experienced center here that can, like I said, take as much as you can take off the young quarterback's plate pre-snap, the better, especially in the beginning. Like let him kind of grow into that role as far as like making all the calls, looking for this, looking for that. Let the center be the one calling like, hey, look at the Mike linebacker, look at this guy, look at that guy. The blitz is coming from this way, blah, 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 stuff like that. So I think that, definitely having the center, a veteran center there with a young quarterback would be the pairing to go with.
Yeah, I just want to.
You laughing at my tooth, motherfucker?
What?
Laughing at my tooth?
No, not at all. I'm laughing because of what I'm about to say, and I was thinking, like, should I say this or should I not? But Tony, between you and I'm just going to apologize ahead of time for all you guys out there. But let's just say, let's go back in time, right? Let's go back in time to when you were a young man and your first time. Okay, your first time. What is it better to have two people who have no idea what they're doing, or would you rather have had one person who knows what they're doing, so that way things kind of move smoother and quicker?
It's a good analogy.
I'm just saying. But yes, I agree that I would like the experienced center, but obviously there's unique situations. where guys like are 4-year starters, where like their coaches will tell you don't have to worry about this cat, dude. And like Creed, obviously Humphrey from Oklahoma is probably one of those guys, but it's very unique. But that can happen. But majority of the time, it is smart to have that veteran center in there because he's not going to be a deer in the headlights. He's not going to be surprised by what he sees, right? He's going to know what's coming, and he'll also be that voice to be able to talk to the quarterback. Hey man, calm down, don't worry, we got you, big boy. So I think that really good question, Tony. So yeah, I think experience is very much needed for a rookie quarterback. Now the next question is from Deluxe. If a free agent running back is added, who would be your choice, including Gibson as an option?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind bringing Gibson back for a cheap deal, just because off the top of my head, all the big name guys like Saquon and Derrick Henry and guys like that, they're gonna be a pretty penny. It's really weird that people haven't really been talking about Austin Eckler. Like, I think he's a free agent, but he gets like no love. But
Wait, he had a down year last year. I made that one tweet saying that, can you imagine Austin Eckler in this offense? And everyone's like, have you seen him? Are you stupid? Blah, blah, blah. He was trash.
yeah, nah,
Like,
I
dude,
mean, he did have a
all I'm
down
saying
year.
is you're getting run down all game by a big ass Brian Robinson. And then you have to worry about small ass Austin strong ass Eckler having to catch the ball out the backfield. I'm just saying, you've been run over all day. Now you got to chase him around. You're going to get tired.
Nah, I agree. But now, I mean, maybe a guy like Tony Pollard, but I think he's gonna probably want a little bit of that, a little bit more than like the third tier of like running backs that are going to be out there, kind of like where the Gibsons are going to be at. So I wouldn't mind paying for a maybe like a 2-3 year deal for like a 2-year deal for Gibson, 3-year deal for I don't know, like 15, 20 mil, whatever it might be. A couple like what is it, like 3.5, 4 mil a year, something like that. So yeah, I wouldn't mind that, but honestly, I'd rather just like draft a guy like a really like younger guy, like the mid to like later rounds, or maybe an undrafted free agent type of guy. But if I had to make a choice out of the free agency guys, got to bring my guy AG back.
And I have to apologize, Deluxe, because I didn't do the proper preparing for this question. I should have looked it up, but I would look into former running backs in Arizona under Cliff and see if they're available via free agency. That's somebody I would look down and under that route. But I think obviously the free agents are plentiful. And if you're going to say that it's going to be relatively cheap in terms of running backs, I think that somebody like McKinnon is a very good idea along with Antonio Gibson. But because of Eckler's down year, if he's willing to be cheaper, I mean, I think that is a fantastic option to take at the end all be all, And I know that some people said Josh Jacobs, but Josh Jacobs mimics exactly what Brian does, but I don't know, man. I don't want to go down that route. Now the next question, the Discord Hall. This is from Jeff Miles. Kirk, our last acceptable quarterback pick, and Purdy, Peter's last acceptable quarterback pick, were both taken in late rounds. Kirk being the second quarterback taken by the team, should Washington consider drafting a late round quarterback regardless of what we do at 2? If so, who?
I would say no, because you're going to have, if you draft a guy at number 2, you're probably going to bring a veteran in that's going to help kind of like be that veteran in the room, kind of tutor the young guy along, bring him along the way, like stuff like that. Maybe like I don't know if Andy Dalton's available, but an Andy Dalton type of quarterback, that's been there, done that. And and then you're probably, if you don't trade him, you're going to have Sam Howell as your guy that's either QB number 3 that's not dressing, or so yeah. I just think with all the holes this team has, they have multiple picks. I'm not going to say waste it, because you never know what could happen. But if you're going to draft a quarterback at number 2, I don't want another RG3 Kirk Cousins situation where part of the coaching staff is all in on this guy, or some of the buildings on this guy, some of the coaching staff and some of the buildings in on this guy because whatever reason, and there's a split in the division. We've been down this road before. I want all the eggs put into one basket for that number 2 overall pick, which it seems like obviously they're all in alignment with for the first time in my whole life probably. So, yeah, I just want all of the eggs put into the basket of the number 2 overall pick. I don't want a mid-round guy or a later-round guy there just for the fan. You know how our fan base is. We love the backup quarterbacks. A bad game stretch. Well, put in what's the dude from Tulane?
Michael Pratt?
Can't think. Yeah, put in Michael Pratt, or put in the veteran that we signed, blah blah blah. So all the eggs in number two overall
I
basket.
just want to let you know, I wholeheartedly disagree with you. I do think it is a very good idea. And the reason I understand your thought process, I totally do. But I will say that this is a unique and a different situation where the whole organization is under the mindset of the number two is the starter regardless, and that seventh rounder is a developmental third quarterback on the depth chart. With that being said, with me, I want my quarterback room to be a lot like my kids, right? And the reason why I say that is I want the first quarterback, the starter, I want him to be the Matt Ryan type. I want him to be, having the collar tight up, tie on, acting like not acting a certain way, but acting as the leader, being the leader of the group, of the men, of the entire apparatus, because that is what you are. You are the image, being the firstborn. Secondborn, I want them to be more so of kind of restricted to themselves, kind of by themselves, studying a lot, preparing themselves for the situation. The third, I want that to be the crazy mofo that does funny stuff that you love being around, that makes a lot of jokes, and that's Joe Milton with the arm. Because in the preseason, for 2 or 3 quarters, I want to see Joe Milton just standing flat foot for 80-yard passes. Let's just have fun with it. And then let's see if the kid can progress. If not, okay, we'll just draft another quarterback to be our backup next year. Not that big of a deal. And I think it's a good idea in that mindset because a lot like baseball, it is good to generate the factory of quarterbacks. It's very hard to do. But people like New England, who were very good at identifying those traits and being able to progress as quarterbacks, were able to accomplish it. And you can do it, but it's a multi-year thing, and you have to be able to have consistency in your front office to do it, but it's achievable. Now, the next question, this is from Tim Towner. This one, Burgundy Zone does math. What are the odds that Chicago, Washington, and New England all hold their picks and take quarterbacks 1, 2, and 3 with the first 3 picks in the draft, and no other team makes an offer worthy enough to move into the top 3? That's really 2 questions. No trade-ups and quarterbacks taken 1, 2, 3. No specific order.
So it has to be New England taking the third quarterback?
Yeah, so nobody would be trading up with anybody. So it's
Right.
Chicago,
So
Washington, New England, all taking quarterbacks 1, 2, 3.
the percentage of that I would say is 40%. I think that the Patriots are going to trade out of that third pick. There's been a lot of chatter about them bringing Jacoby Brissett back to be that bridge guy. And obviously, just based off of last year, we know Jacoby still wants to be a starter in this league. And he's shown that he can be that kind of stopgap guy to, again, bring the young guy along while also, hey, I know I'm going to have to pass the reins to you at some point, but I'm still going to put the work in and bust my ass to be that guy every single day, which with the New England team that's rebuilding, they need a guy like Jacoby Brissett. He's been there, knows the organization, knows the fan base, and I think that everyone's always talked about he's a great leader, a great guy in the quarterback room, a great guy to mentor young quarterbacks. So I think that they do draft a quarterback, but I don't think it's at number 3. I think they do take one of the Bo Nixes, the Michael Penixes, someone like that to kind of sit behind Jacoby. But I think that whether it's the Raiders, Atlanta, we'll see what they do with Kirk, but Minnesota, whoever it might be, someone's going to move up to that third spot. Maybe a mystery team that nobody's really talking about right now. Somebody's going to jump up and trade with New England, and it will be quarterback 1, 2, 3, but it will not be New England drafting that number 3. I'll say 40% chance.
Not sure, Tim, to be honest, because you know how I feel about this. Everyone keeps telling me that Chicago's taking Caleb, but everything that I'm reading about the situation, I'm saying bull crap. It doesn't read that way. And look, if they do go down that route, God bless their heart. Rest in peace to you guys and whatever the heck you're going to do in 5 years, because you won't be here. Because what they're doing with only 5 picks, yeah, they have a good roster. Fantastic. What are you going to do in 4 years? Are you going to tell me that Shane Waldron is good enough to be the head coach next year already? Then why didn't you hire him to be the head coach already? Why is Eberflus still here? That is a big question to me. None of it makes sense because you're starting ass backwards with Caleb. And I feel bad for Caleb that he's me thrusted into that scenario. But, it is what it is. I think it's a high percentage chance that they go 1, 2, 3, just because I don't put it out of the realm of possibility that Chicago is that stupid. And the reason why I say stupid,
They're 100% trading Justin Fields. It's already been put out there. That's why there's no trade value and no market for him. Everyone knows they're trading him, so it's just like
yeah, that's fair. But all I'd say is they continue to do this with each quarterback that they take them top 10. And at some point, the quarterback that keeps coming in, are they really?
But if you think Caleb's that good, don't you think that no matter what he can overcome, no matter what Chicago does and blah blah blah?
I don't think Caleb's that good. I think Caleb would be that good under Cliff Kingsbury and with this
So,
team.
mm. See,
Since he was,
a lot of people are like thinking that Cliff Kingsbury was the offensive coordinator last year for Caleb Williams. Cliff Kingsbury was just like an offensive analyst. Like I'm sure he was coaching him up a little bit, but like he wasn't the QB coach. He wasn't the offensive coordinator. He was an offensive analyst. He wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Like obviously they're cool, they're tight, and he can coach them up, whatever, blah blah blah. But yeah, I just think there was drafting Caleb Williams in Chicago. That's all. That's why I've never really put any time and effort into being like, oh, Caleb. But if they get him, it's tight. But that's just where I've always been with it.
yeah, I just feel bad at this point if that.
Yeah,
is the
no, it
case.
sucks because they're just spinning the wheels.
Yeah.
They've been spinning the wheels. It's kind of like us. We've just been spinning wheels. Now we're not really hopefully spinning wheels anymore. They probably more than likely will still be.
Yeah, because my whole thing is like you keep picking these quarterbacks in the top 10 and then you don't fulfill a contract.
Honestly, if we're being like really like honest with ourselves, what's going to happen is they're going to draft Caleb Williams. They're going to have how many wins year this year. Might be a lot. Their defense is actually pretty good. They got Montez and a couple other guys, but we'll see what happens with the offense. They're going to fire Eberflus. They're going to fire Waldron, all those guys. They're going to hire Ben Johnson. He's going to go to Chicago, and Caleb Williams' career might take off.
I was thinking something different. I was thinking if they did draft Caleb Williams, that they'd be overpaying for Cliff Kingsbury next season.
That's possible. Yeah, if they happen, whatever happens here, if the offense takes off, that would actually be that would actually be pretty smart. But if it's not Kingsbury, I could definitely see Ben Johnson hopping in the same division over Chicago for the chance to coach a superstar in Caleb Williams.
You know what's wrong with society nowadays, Hall, is nobody has a sense of responsibility. There is a lack of commitment all throughout society in the world today, and it starts with none other than the Chicago Bears. You made the decision to trade up for Justin Fields, and before you didn't even sign him to an extension. Before that year comes up, you're already looking to move on from him.
Before they even pick up the 5th-year option.
Man, what quarterback wouldn't really be excited for a situation like that? For a team to just walk away from you that easily, instead of saying maybe we should put more around you and build up with you, which is what Poles said a couple weeks ago. But hey, I'm just here reading tea leaves. Things don't make sense, but if Chicago wants doing that, do the thing, man. I'm not going to judge you guys.
You're thinking with a rational mind. You're not thinking with a Chicago Bears franchise mind. That's where the problem is.
The funny thing to me is everyone keeps saying, well, they missed out on Pat Mahomes. They're not going to miss out. They're not going to miss out on Pat Mahomes again.
Well, the funny thing is there's like people like reporters and insiders that are saying like, yes, like even though like that whole regime is already gone, not there anymore, there's still people in that organization that are like, it's still like echoes in the halls and like stuff like that, So.
That is fair. All I'm going to say is you guys don't have Andy Reid. That's the point.
It's true.
That's why you're going to be unsuccessful, because you don't build a team. You don't hire the right coaches. You do things ass backwards. You keep Eberflus on, and you draft Caleb Williams and say, how come it didn't work out? And then you go, hey, Shane, are you ready for head coach? This is all stupid. It's all stupid. It's a waste of time, and I hate going through these scenarios in my head because none of it makes sense. And everyone keeps telling me it makes sense. It doesn't make sense, dude. It doesn't make sense at all. It's stupid. But I'm done being angry because the whole Cam Curl thing pissed me off even more. But I understand. Yeah. I understand it's a business. I totally get that it's a business. I love Cam Curl as a player and as a kid. Like, he's done everything right. He's a hard hat worker. I respect the heck out of him for the fact that he didn't cause a bunch of crap off the field. But like you're talking about DJ Swearinger. I mean,
look, how many times have we said over the years where it's like, man, we don't ever pay our own. We don't ever keep our own. Even you can hate Ron Rivera and all that old staff all you want. They found a diamond in the rough in the 7th round. And not from like day one, but from the middle of his rookie season up until the end of his rookie contract, He has been a starter for you, a consistent starter for you, and that's a GM, that's a football team's, that's a scouting department's dream to find a guy like that, him to rise to the cream of the crop, and be a plus player for you on defense and for your team and for your locker room. You're supposed to reward guys like that. Unfortunately, we've seen with the safety market, it's going crazy right now. People getting released left and right. A lot of names on the market, and with a new regime coming in, so I fully believe if Ron Rivera was still here, Cam Curl would already have a deal, or there would be a deal, at least a franchise tag. He would have got franchise tagged at the minimum. So I get the whole market value and not overpaying and all that stuff because it's still a business at the end of the day. But like I said, you know how it is. As fans of this teams forever, it's just like we never really try to pay our own. We always try to go like the cheap route. I know they're not going the cheap route, but it's just one of those things where it's just like, damn, man, like really. And there's still a chance he comes back, obviously, but let's be real, he ain't coming back.
No, and I don't. I feel bad for him because I feel like I know what Cam Curl just always wanted to feel wanted, right? Being a 7th-round pick, never
Stop
really.
coming at Coach Curl. All he's doing is trying to like look out for his son. You do the same thing,
Dude, a lot of people have a lot of problems with Coach Greg Curl.
I know.
But you know what Coach Greg Curl never did is he never piled on somebody else's kid. He never talked about them for the reason why Cam Curl wasn't successful. He talked his son up, and he talked his son up so his contract would be in the spotlight, so his son could get recognized for the work that he is doing. He didn't do anything wrong. What he did was bring everyone's mindset and eyes to the situation, what he wanted you guys to do. So he spent his free time pumping up his son's value. And if anybody has a problem with that, I have a problem with you then. Because
Exactly.
Mr. Curl did everything the correct way. He didn't do anything wrong, and all he did was be confident in his son and say that his son deserved what, 20 million. I told him he should have made it
And
30. He should have said 30
at the
million.
end of the day, if the owners and GMs and people are looking at Twitter and taking his thoughts and opinions on Twitter as like, oh, this is what Cam Curl wants, then they probably shouldn't have them jobs anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's just a dude pumping up his son, like you said, pumping up the value of his son and putting his son out there for the world to be like, hey, this dude is a star on the verge of maybe being a superstar one day. Look what he can do. I want my boy to get paid. And like you said, if anybody that has a kid out there, whether it's a son or a daughter, they would do the same thing. So
You're absolutely right.
what? It's just Twitter, though. It's just Twitter trolls.
It is Twitter trolls, and because at the end of the day, why do you have a literal, physical, social reaction to somebody saying that their son deserves a certain amount of money, right?
Right.
Like people literally get angry, like, "Oh, he doesn't get turnovers, bro." This is dad, bro. He just wants his son to.
You act like it's like literally like it's a football stadium. Like the money that is paying Cam Curl is coming out of our taxpaying pockets. It ain't got nothing to do with you.
No.
Let the man get paid. Like what?
No, and like that's why I feel bad with Cam, because I feel like Cam obviously has been wanting to feel wanted, being a 7th-round pick, because we got to remember Jack Del Rio wasn't starting him. It's not like they drafted him and said, "You're the starter, you're our boy." He had to earn those starting reps. Not only did he earn them, he ended up becoming one of the best safety tandems with Derek Forrest in the NFL at one point. And then they have a bad year on defense, and we're saying that this kid doesn't deserve to get paid. And I'm sitting here saying, wait a minute. You're saying that we should pay extra money for somebody else's trash, but we can't even accept and acknowledge the talent that we have. Exactly. And that's my problem here. And that's what really irks me.
You said it better than I was trying to say.
Is like this kid really worked his butt off. Like he wasn't an issue. He wasn't somebody who caused issues. He kept things together and he worked hard. And that's why I sit here and say, look, I understand it's a business and you guys want to move on from Cameron Curl. All I'm going to say is whatever team puts in one offer for Cameron Curl is going to get one hell of a motivated individual that's going to work their ass off to prove to you that there was a good reason why you brought them in. And I feel like our opportunity for that is gone. And no fault of their own. If they want to go down their own route, that's fine. I just think that other organizations that are very successful in this league do things a certain way. And it's a transparent, open communication process. And I'm not saying that's not what happened here, but I just feel like Cameron Curl at least deserved that respect with what he's done for this organization, and that he did try hard. I mean, he did. And that's all you want out of a pro athlete. It's entertainment, and if you try hard, hell yeah, dude, let's go, let's rock. All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. If you made it this far, you're a frickin' champion. Hall, I appreciate you for speeding home, going 150 on the highway to make it back in time for me and Nick Akridge here to do this episode. We'll see you guys again on Sunday. I hope you have a great weekend. Be safe and enjoy the beautiful weather. If you guys like to reach out, let us know what you want to do in the draft. If you're a fan of trading back, let us know. If you're a flat earther, let us know, man. We want to talk with you. We'd love to have.
If you don't believe in pigeons, let us know.
Yeah, but dude, when we were going down to Georgia, because I get talking about conspiracies with Gene, and Gene's like, "Oh yeah, birds aren't real, right, Kyle?" And I was like, when have I ever said that? When have I ever said that? He's like, "You guys."
Gene always like takes it to the extreme. It's like, what?
He's like, "You guys always out there talking about birds aren't real." Who is saying that? Who is saying that, Gene? All right, everybody. We'll see you on Sunday. Have a great weekend. I'll see you then. Washington football. Woo!
Peace.
What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.